Hey, I'm Ryan Gregg with FaithVillage.com. Today we're talking with Derek Webb. Derek, thanks for joining us today.
A pleasure.
Man, I really have been enjoying the new album, Control. Are
Thank
you
you.
happy with the response you've gotten from people?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of hard to discern what the response is, but we've just hit the road and have started playing some shows, so I'm starting to get a little bit of the feedback, there. But otherwise, I think so. I mean, it's a complicated record, and it's I more than accept the fact that it's the kind of record that just takes time. It just takes. We intentionally made it to kind of be discovered, things about it to be discovered over time. So initial response doesn't concern me too much, but I think people seem to be tolerating it.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff I've come across online is just, people love it. And I think it's really cool. It seems like a departure for you, something new. But anyway, really like it. But I was curious about,
Well,
what
thank
are
you.
some of the themes that you are trying to have come across on the album? There's some heavy stuff.
Yeah. I I mean, it's the record came from my wanting to address some of my concerns about the tenuous relationship between culture and technology.
Hmm.
That's kind of where it started, and my own tenuous relationship with technology, and just the fact that we can see technology getting so much more sophisticated every year, almost to the point where it's almost you kind of get this feeling that in a few more years the technology is going to get so sophisticated that it almost just kind of becomes invisible, like it just kind of starts to disappear,
Hmm.
and like it just gets smaller and smaller, and it gets, I mean, already an iPhone kind of disappears in your hand. It just feels like part, most people would say it just kind of feels like part of their arm, like it's
Hmm.
just part of their body.
Yeah.
It's like it just kind of, so, as technology kind of starts to disappear, and with the disappearing technology, the on and off switches all kind of start to disappear. It's always on, we're always connected. You never turn it off. And it just kind of, I've got a little bit of a concern for our ability to organically connect with each other. Like when our whole social lives become the crafting of our personalities somewhere like Facebook, and the managing of our friends, and the managing of our relationships, and using technology to do that. It just kind of started to feel like technology on the whole is starting to become like an unnecessary prosthetic
Hmm.
that we use to touch each other and to communicate with each other. And what concerns me is in some years from now, when the technology disappears completely, and when it becomes completely ubiquitous and inevitable and invisible, and the on and off switch can't be found, if along with that moment arrives a real boom in what technology is capable of in terms of its power, which you can watch that happening year over year. You can watch, the technology gets smaller and cheaper and more sophisticated every year, and therefore it gets more powerful. I mean, this is a worldview. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is a way by which you look at the world, and it helps to contextualize and make sense of the world for you. I mean, we look through it to see things and to get information about things. It's the way that we contextualize ourselves and learn about our environment, and it's a lot of power in the hands of a little device. And I just wonder if by the moment that it concerns us to the extent that I believe it should, the amount of power we're giving over to little devices
Hmm.
that are increasingly hard to find, if we're going to regret having turned over that much power. But in the moment of regret, will it be too late? Will we have already made the choice years prior, when the technology wasn't as powerful? And like, we need to start thinking right now about putting guardrails around technology and developing sacred spaces in our lives where we don't allow technology in, and that's completely counterintuitive right now.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive in the in the huge excitement of the new iPhone, for instance. Like we're too enamored with it all, and it's all too innocent right now to think about putting guardrails around it and saying no to it in certain circumstances. There's no real good reason to do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that we're not doing it now means that it's becoming entrenched in our lives. It's becoming an inevitable part of our lives and our personalities. And by the time it is maybe a little more dangerous, or a little more, its effect is a little more subversive and sinister, it might be too late to untether ourselves from it. And so, I mean, that's something I think a lot about in my own life, with my family. Because you see, when I look around the world right now, when I look at the world, I see individuals, I see families walking around staring into little screens.
Mm-hmm.
I see families like lemmings bumping into each other because parents are looking at little screens and children are looking at little screens. Everyone's looking into little screens. It's the way we're looking at the world now, and people can't be bothered to even make a phone call, let alone spend time with somebody face to face. And the whole thing just kind of concerns me. I'm not sure it's worth what we're losing for what we're getting. And I'm definitely not anti-technology, because I'm the biggest technology addict you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's more just wanting to think about the implications of it and wanting to impose some self-control. Wanting to think about what it means and what we're giving up and what is it costing us. And therefore wanting to think through, how do we put guardrails around it? How do we develop sacred spaces? How do we have self-control? Because if we don't talk about it now, I'm just afraid it's going to be too late to talk about it 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. It's just going to be too late. It's going to have too much of a hold on us. It's going to be too big a part of our ongoing lives.
Yeah.
And so that was my concern, and I started, and honestly, it was that concern, and that's the kind of thing I'm looking for when I'm making art, is like when I'm kind of squinting my eyes at culture and my own environment. What concerns me? What do I feel like are the ethical issues that are just on the horizon that nobody seems to be picking up on yet, that need a voice given to them? And for this moment, it was issues of technology. And so that's how I wound up eventually coming around to making Control. That is the conceptual motivation behind it.